We were supposed to talk about Monaco last week and the changes they made.
That they're planning to make. I don't know that it's set in stone yet.
Oh, they still haven't confirmed. Okay, I thought it was a done deal, but I could be wrong.
It might be. Maybe I haven't paid enough attention.
Either way, it's stupid, in my opinion. And we're talking about the extra pit stop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, though.
Right. So they want to mandate a second pit stop,
Yes.
and the implication being that they want to mandate all 3 tire compounds.
Oh,
So I think that part is potentially good. You know, make it so that if you have a first lap safety car or a first lap red flag, like we've seen in recent times, that you don't just bolt on a set of hard tires and go to the end. I think that's worthwhile. I think mandating 2 stops just to artificially try and cause someone to screw up, if you're going to that level to make a race worth watching, the race isn't worth having.
exactly. And that's what we talked about last year. Like, it's a procession at this point. The cars are too big for this road. They have no interest in, well, they can't. I don't think they can physically stretch the road in any way.
No.
It's basically impossible. This is a 100-year-old road at least.
It's built into the side of a mountain.
Yeah. So I think our idea of just of a solitary like championship, essentially, like one race where you can choose any car you want, they can have fun with it, it doesn't count to points, is the best way forward, especially if this is on the calendar, I think, till 2031.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 2030 or 31, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's not the lack of pit stops. And I think there was a couple of back and forths I saw. Like Bernie Collins said, okay, why wouldn't the smaller teams just pit lap 1, pit lap 2, and then use their hard after lap 2 and just wait for all the other cars to pit? And the rebuttal against that I saw in P1's Matt and Tommy is that, okay, why haven't they tried that the last couple of years? It doesn't work because you can technically speed up. I just think, like we saw last year, the leader slowed down to save his tires and kept the race very close. And so he could theoretically speed up, is what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yes. And I think she's not far off. Somebody could try it. But the second that somebody tries it and gets it right, that becomes the go-to strategy. And then we'll never see anything but that again.
Exactly. Pole will do exactly that. He'll speed and fly the first couple laps, push the car as hard as possible, and gain. We saw sometimes they were 5 seconds a lap slower than normal last year.
Yeah.
So there's 5 seconds a lap in the bank that they could technically use.
Yeah. And I think if they're going to try and change how do I say this? If they're going to try and manipulate the race to make it more exciting, I think there are other ways they could do it, right? Like Pirelli could have a mandate to not stick to the kind of guideline they have for compounds, right? Where you can, let's say, I don't know what it is, but there's usually a rule of thumb for how many laps a compound is supposed to last, right? So they have 6 compounds of tires. They vary. They kind of shift the set of 3 throughout the year based on the conditions of the track. Why not tell Pirelli, bring a set that's 2 steps softer than you think it should be? So then your hard tire is what you would typically use as a soft. Maybe that's a bit extreme, but that guarantees more pit stops and it opens people up to trying to run longer on a tire that shouldn't hold up. And that's where you're going to get some uncertainty, some punctures, some people trying to run long on a fragile tire and then screwing it up.
And that's a good way to look at it. But like you said, if you're relying on uncertainty, you're missing the point.
Yes, absolutely. I still stick by that.
Yeah. It's a fat person who's saying, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to drink Diet Pepsi. Like you're not fixing the underlying issue here. You know what I mean? Like maybe you need to eat less. Maybe the cars are too big.
I do know what you mean, and I think your analogy game needs to be stepped up some more. But
every week I come up with a bad analogy. That's my new thing, or a mean analogy.
Yeah, we should call this this channel F1 Analogies.
Anyways, you were about to make a point.
Was I? I think the point is simply that Monaco is irrelevant at this point. They keep it there because it has some perceived nostalgia and reverence to it. But really, I think it's just a home race for all the drivers. It just gives them an excuse to be at home for another weekend during the year.
Yeah, that's probably it. I was thinking there's this is the old European money gathering point. And I have a feeling the FIA has to, like you said, do a service to that because FIA is old European money. They need their home base.
Yeah, and I really don't understand it because other than this one race, there's nothing that connects it to anything other than the fact that it's been on the calendar forever.
Tax haven.
For the driver, sure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, up until recently, they had their own TV crew, right? It's not like this is where the FIA or F1 is based out of. None of the teams are based out of there. The principality itself doesn't pay into F1 for any real reason other than to have the race. And I'm sure it costs quite a bit to run the race. But so what? We've gotten rid of better circuits for less.
Yeah.
Like they were talking about Sepang in Malaysia during testing this week. And everybody said, I'd love to go back to Sepang. Get rid of Monaco. Let's go to Sepang.
Korea, too. You've always talked about highly of Korea.
Yeah.
The Korean Grand Prix. Yeah.
Turkey.
Yeah. Portugal.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Not Senna's home Grand Prix, but Senna's adopted home Grand Prix. His first race win. Always a good race there. We saw it, I think, once or twice in 2020 because they had the condensed.
Once, yeah.
Once. It was a great race. Yeah, we're losing Spa 2 of the years we're going to have Monaco in the next 5. You're right. It's just absolute nonsense. It's a Band-Aid solution for a big gash in someone's arm. You know, it's just not, it doesn't make any sense and it's not fixing anything.
You're talking Band-Aid solution being the 2-stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's bigger issues here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways. Anything else you want to add about Monaco?
I want to see it go away.
Or like you said last year, I think you had a great idea, the solitary championship. Or this
standalone race.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or this could be the youth race. Where we have like a week off for everybody, all the drivers, and then all like youth drivers that Jordan talked about, Jordan and Coulthard. This is their one race. Go in like F2 cars or old cars or something. I don't know.
F2 races there.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know that Monaco is the track to put young drivers in F1 hardware for the first time and let them loose on the tight city circuit of Monaco. That's a good way to make sure that one car finishes the race.
Great race. 1996 Monaco Grand Prix. Olivier Panis' his only win. 3 car finishes.
Unless we're talking about, 92 Belgium Grand Prix? Or 95?
The one we watched? Where they all crashed at the first corner?
Yeah.
98.
98.
Great race.
Great race, but that would be exactly what we saw in that situation, Nick.
I'm not going to say anything else because I'm already going to get canceled. Okay.
That's enough about Monaco.
That's way too much time about Monaco. Yeah. It's just not. I don't even think we're going to, like we said last year, I don't even think we're going to have a recap episode on Monaco this year. Like, what's the point? But I guess we'll see.
Who knows? Maybe they add the second stop and it ends up being a great race.
Fingers crossed. All right. Before we get into our gambling, is there anything you saw in testing this week? So testing was, we're recording here on March 1st today. Testing was the 26th, 27th, and 28th. 3 days. morning and afternoon. I think most of the drivers got a full race distance every day. Not all, but
A full race distance in terms of laps run, I would say close to, yes, but not of race simulation every day. I tried. I did my best, but I just could not watch 24 hours of testing. It's a lot to take in, especially a year like this when you have a regulation change next year and most teams are already focused on the 26 car. Nobody's doing anything meaningful.
no, we saw with the reveals, there's minor changes on every car. There's no big changes on any of them, except maybe VCARB. But
There's no huge revolutions. No. Ferrari claimed that their car is almost entirely new. They changed suspension setup in the front, which is significant. It is a big change. I don't know that it will change much to the performance of the car per se. But Rob Smedley, I think it was it? Yeah, it was him. Was talking on Formula for Success about how it's potentially telling that they've made that change, that they've made such a big architectural change to a car that's been steady. His thinking there is that they've potentially identified something in the 26 regulations that they want to test in 25. So not related to aerodynamics per se, but maybe to the fundamental structure of the car, how it behaves. They've identified that going to this version of suspension will benefit them, so they have some things that they're trying to benchmark on the 25 car, which is interesting. Mercedes has done something that I think is bizarre, but probably easily explainable. They have painted on a driver cooling duct. So last year, or the year before, whatever it was, the FIA implemented a mandatory driver cooling duct. And it's basically a panel right on the nose, and it's usually around where the driver number is, that can come on and off, and they can change it out for different sizes or not having it at all, which is basically just to force air into the cockpit to help cool the driver. In testing, it's been relatively cool, even though it is in Bahrain. And the Mercedes car, quote unquote, looks like it has a driver cooling duct open, but it's just a graphic. And it has a bulge, the duct itself looks almost like a NACA duct, and it has a bulge in that area that makes it look like it's open, but clearly with a close enough camera, you can see it's just part of the vinyl. And it looks like Mercedes has changed the suspension pickup points for the top front of the A-arm, which again might be one of these, they've found something for 26 that they want to test, so now they're putting it on the 25 car to get some data on it, which is reasonable. But then it raises the question, if they've put the suspension and everything to do with the suspension right behind that panel, where's the cooling duct? And that's something that the team that was analyzing the footage put forward, was it looks like there is an opening in the floor, kind of just where the floor and the nose come together. It looks like they may have found a way to move the driver cooling duct down there, which also begs the question of, have they found a way to do something with the floor aerodynamically that also benefits from it? Because why would you put that there? It's just a disturbance to the opening of the floor. So there are a couple of little things here and there. Nothing revolutionary. Sauber looks like a turd again. Williams and Alpine are using the same chassis as last year.
that's not good for Williams.
It is, because we know that they struggled last year to get spares. So at least this simplifies it. They've had a whole year now to optimize their manufacturing process, and now they don't have to work with a new design. They've got a design that works, and the chassis, we say chassis, but it's basically the monocoque, right? The survival cell, the basic structure of the car stayed the same. It's good because they have all the lessons learned, right? They know how it works now, hopefully, so they can add on to it. And this is what we talked about last time with Alpine. Alpine is using the same chassis. So maybe there's a benefit there.
Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, I mean, testing's been kind of tame. The reliability is there. We've known that for a couple of years. The engines are solid. Everything is kind of what we expect. Nobody's bouncing all over the place anymore. So it's been relatively straightforward. Everybody's just kind of run their plan. Haas hasn't made any big statement. Alpine hasn't made any big statement, but that's simply because they don't care what everybody else is doing. They're just out there to get the data. And I think that's reasonable. That's what we should expect at this point in the regulation set. The most exciting thing I think we've seen is Hajar spinning a couple of times and part of the body breaking off of the Haas.
Oh, I did see that. The engine cover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they confirmed it was a supplier issue. The Kevlar weave delaminated, which is shitty. I'm pretty sure for stuff like that they get it made at Dallara, so you would hope that they have better quality control. But I'm sure they'll get that sorted come race time.
Now's the time to have stuff like that happen.
Yeah, and I mean that was on day 2, so by that point they'd already put 3 race distances on those components.
It's interesting that you say Sauber looks like a turd, and no reliability or shaking issues. I think you were saying something like that. Which didn't they have a problem with their suspension all last year? Do they have those same problems from what you saw?
It wasn't a problem with the suspension. I think it was just designed to be a softer car than the rest of the field, and that's not what you want from a properly built race car. Obviously, they have a team of chassis engineers and suspension engineers that know a lot more about it than I do. But simply watching that thing go through the corners, it's definitely moving around. You know, you look at the Red Bull go through the corners and the Mercedes go through the corners. Then you see the Sauber go through it. It looks like they're driving a transit van compared to the other two. Another thing I noticed is it reminds me of like the 2009, 2010, 11 Sauber team when they were just Sauber Cosworth. At that point, the car was white and black and had almost no sponsors on it and just kind of looked sad. It's what this looks like now, except it's green and black. You know, there's not a whole lot of definition to it. There's not a whole lot of names on it. It really does seem to be just whatever, get through the year and we'll see what Audi does.
They may be dropping kick and stake at some point this season. That's the rumor. So we may not see that lime green anymore. Might just be all black at some point.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, it's going to be in Abu Dhabi.
It's going to be
It's going to be in Abu Dhabi that they get dropped because that's the last race of the season, and next year they won't be there.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, we will see about that. Anything else you want to add before we move on?
I don't think so, but if I remember it, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, bring it up at the end. We'll have one more go around at testing. Yeah, I don't pay too much attention to testing, as you can all probably deduce. I just think it's just a big practice session. That's how I see it. And since I'm not an engineer like yourself, I can't deduce anything. So,
yeah, I will say I've been a little disappointed because they've had David Croft and Ted Kravitz on the F1 coverage.
I'm sorry.
I can't stand them. And it's pretty clear that they don't seem to get along with the F1 like the official F1 app hosts. There's been some interesting comments back and forth.
Oh, wow.
Nothing over the top. It's just you can tell that there's differences of opinions. One thing that did come up was, is Liam Lawson a rookie?
Well, I think you nailed that last week.
But do you want to know what I think David Croft has to say about that?
Not really, but sure.
Liam Lawson is a rookie because he hasn't completed a full season. And somebody chimed in, somebody on Twitter, X, whatever the fuck we're calling it these days, and said that is absolute horseshit because if Liam Lawson is a rookie, then Karun Chandhok is a rookie.
I was going through the list of years of seasons where teams didn't finish, like the people who drove for Caterham in 2015 when it went bankrupt after a couple races.
Yeah, whenever it was.
Yeah, like are they not rookies? Yeah.
But that's just it. Like Karun Chandhok, 11 races, didn't finish the season.
Yeah.
Liam Lawson, 11 races, hasn't finished the season. But yet Karun Chandhok is there as a former F1 driver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well said.
So what is it? Is he a rookie or is he an F1 driver? It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's why I can't stand these fucking idiots.
Believe me, Sean, that's like I'm a masochist. You've talked about this. Like I watch them every Sunday. I should just switch over to Formula One, but since you have the app, I figure I want to hear a different point of view. I want to hear David Croft rubbing one out to the thought of Zhou Guanyu in 9th place. It's what makes me happy for some reason. Yeah, they're a lot, I know, and they don't make good points, and they just go over the top for everything. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get over the image of you getting off on David Croft getting off on Zhou Guanyu.
How did I get thrown into this?
Because you insist on being part of that.
Yeah, I guess my mind is in the gutter there. Anyways, moving on from that somehow. We'll segue out of this. Speaking of masturbation.
Are we?
I'm trying to segue here. We're not. I was trying to make a joke about how gambling is masturbation. Much like our hero Tyler Durden once said, self-improvement is masturbation. I disagree with that, actually, but yeah. I'm going to stop using the M word.
You might just want to stop talking.